All right, so welcome everyone to the very first episode of our brand new series, Must Know Topics for Software Developers.
Yeah, exciting stuff.
It is. We're going to be diving deep into all the fundamentals of programming.
Yes.
And this is really the essential building blocks for anybody who wants to get into blockchain development or Solidity development.
Yes, it is.
And to do this, we're going to be looking at some material from a Harvard CS50 lecture.
Awesome.
And I think this is a really great place to start because even if you've got some coding experience,
right,
it's always good to go back.
Absolutely. Yeah. Always good to revisit these basics.
The basics and just make sure.
So just kind of your foundation is strong.
Yeah. Kind of like going back and looking at the foundation of a house.
Yeah.
To make sure it can support, multiple stories or whatever you want to build on it.
Right. Exactly. And, in this case.
It houses your career as a
blockchain developer.
Yeah. That's right.
That's right.
So the lecture starts out with this really cool analogy about comparing variables to boxes. That store data. And this is just such a great way to visualize what's happening in the computer's memory, right? Especially if you're brand new to this.
It's very helpful.
Yeah, totally. And then the lecture goes into talking about data types.
Right. Yeah.
And it uses this example of a phone book, right?
Okay.
You're not going to list somebody's name under their phone number.
No.
It's the same in programming.
Yeah.
You're going to have to tell the computer,
you got it.
Is this a number? Is this text? Is this something else?
Yeah, exactly.
So it knows how to work with that data.
Yeah. It's all about making sure the computer knows what it's working with.
Right. And what's really interesting is how this concept can apply to blockchain development.
Okay.
When you think about a transaction on the blockchain that involves different types of data.
Exactly.
The sender's address, the recipient's address, the amount of crypto, all of that needs to be stored and processed in the correct way.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Just like in the phone book example.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a really cool connection, I think.
It is, yeah.
To the blockchain world.
For sure.
The lecture also goes into this program called Hello World.
Oh, yeah.
And it's,
classic.
a really classic beginner program.
Absolutely. Everyone does Hello World first.
Right. It's also the
first program.
The first step,
that people write.
For sure.
When they learn to code.
But it's also a great example because even experienced programmers
for sure.
Can sometimes
you can trip up on the little things.
The details.
Yeah.
Yuliia points out some common pitfalls, like forgetting semicolons.
Ooh, yeah.
Or not including necessary libraries.
I've done that a million times.
Yeah.
It happens to the best of us.
It's a good reminder that attention to detail is super important in programming.
Especially when you're
dealing with something like blockchain technology.
Dealing with blockchain technology.
Yeah.
And then the lecture moves into talking about Hello You.
Hello You, okay.
Which introduces the concept of
user input.
Yes. And this one talks about using placeholders in formatting output, like using percents for strings and percent for integers. Yeah, that makes sense.
And when you think about building a user interface for a decentralized application,
right,
you need to handle user input correctly.
Absolutely.
Whether that's like a wallet address or a transaction amount or whatever it might be.
Exactly, you got it.
So we're starting to see how all this really basic stuff relates directly to building blockchain applications.
It all connects. Yeah.
And it gets even more interesting when the lecture goes into this program called Friends.c.
Friends.c.
This one's all about designing a program to store and print user data.
Okay.
Now, what's fascinating about this is it introduces this idea of data structures.
Data structure.
Which are fundamental to how blockchains store and manage information.
That's right.
And we are going to be diving deep into data structures.
Another one.
In future episodes.
Yes.
But it's really important to understand that these are essential for building these complex blockchain systems.
Absolutely.
It's like laying the groundwork for all the cool stuff we're going to be building in the future.
Yeah, exciting.
The lecture also talks about loops and conditionals, which are really important for controlling the flow of a program.
Right.
And they use this great visual aid with boxes to explain how loops work.
Right.
So it's really easy to visualize.
Yeah, I like visual.
And basically, loops allow you to repeat a block of code multiple times.
Right.
Which is super useful for processing large amounts of data.
Like in a blockchain, right?
Like in a blockchain, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about validating a block of transactions, you could use a loop to iterate through each transaction.
Exactly.
And check if it's valid.
Right.
So that's just one example of how loops are applied in the blockchain world.
Cool.
And then there's conditionals, which allow you to execute different blocks of code, depending on certain conditions.
Right.
So they're like
decision points.
Decision points in your code.
Okay.
So for example, in a smart contract, you might use a conditional to check if a user has enough funds to complete a transaction.
Right. To make sure they can actually,
If they do, the transaction goes through.
Right.
If not, it doesn't.
Okay.
So we're seeing how these really basic programming constructs are used to build the logic and functionality
of
blockchain applications.
Absolutely.
Now, to really drive these concepts home, the lecture introduces the Mario pyramid problem.
Mario pyramid.
And this involves taking a visual concept, a pyramid, and translating it into code.
You got it.
And this is a great exercise for developing problem-solving skills, which are super important.
They are.
For any developer.
Yeah.
But especially...
Or just in the blockchain space.
In the blockchain space.
Yeah.
So the lecture breaks this problem down step by step. Starting with a left-aligned pyramid. And they use this function called print row. Which really neatly encapsulates reusable code.
Right.
And this highlights the concept of modularity in software design.
Right.
Which is crucial for building
very important.
Complex systems.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about developing like a decentralized application, you want to break down that functionality into smaller, manageable modules that can be developed and tested independently.
Right.
So it's all about making your code organized, efficient, and easier to maintain.
Absolutely.
Which is especially important.
Virtually in a collaborative environment.
In a collaborative environment like blockchain development.
That's right.
And finally, the lecture shows how to use a do-while loop to handle invalid user input. And this brings us to the super important concept of error handling.
Error handling,
Right?
Yeah.
In any software application, it's essential to anticipate potential errors and handle them gracefully to prevent crashes or unexpected behavior. Now, in blockchain applications, this is even more crucial.
Oh, for sure.
Because errors can have significant financial consequences.
Absolutely.
So imagine a smart contract that doesn't properly handle invalid inputs that could lead to vulnerabilities that attackers could exploit.
For sure.
And potentially drain funds from the contract.
Absolutely.
So robust error handling is crucial for building secure and reliable blockchain applications.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's just one example of why these fundamental concepts are so important. We're not just learning to code for any application.
Right. We're thinking bigger picture.
Thinking about blockchain technology where security and reliability are paramount.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, that's
some heavy stuff, but
that's a good overview of that section of the lecture.
Okay, cool.
So going back to the Mario pyramid problem.
Well, the Mario pyramid,
The lecture challenges us to actually take it a step further and create a right-aligned pyramid.
A right-aligned pyramid.
And it hints that we can use spaces to achieve this, but it leaves
it up to us.
Implementation up to us.
Cool.
So it's like
a little puzzle.
This little coding challenge.
A coding puzzle.
To test our understanding of loops and conditional statements.
Right.
So I think about that.
I think this kind of problem solving is at the core of what we do as developers, and especially in the
when working with blockchain
space. You've got to be able to think through all these scenarios
for different scenarios. And you got to think about all the edge cases too.
Right, exactly.
And write code that can properly handle them.
Handle all of those different situations. So
I guess what I'm saying is
what you're saying is.
The Mario pyramid problem is it's a good way.
It's a good way to practice that kind of thinking in a simpler, in a more simplified context.
Simplified context.
Yeah, even though the lecture doesn't explicitly connect the Mario pyramid to blockchain development.
Yeah.
I think the
principles are
underlying principles.
Yeah, the underlying principles are still there.
Or directly applicable.
They're definitely applicable.
Right.
Right.
They both involve, for sure,
breaking down a complex problem into smaller, manageable steps.
Yes.
And then using programming constructs like loops and conditionals to implement a solution.
I'm sure.
It's like learning the fundamental moves of a martial art before you start sparring.
Yeah, before you spar.
Right.
Yeah, you got to know the basics.
You got to master the basics.
The fundamental.
Before you can apply them in a more dynamic and challenging environment.
For sure. That's a good analogy.
So I think it's really important to keep that in mind as we go through this lecture.
Absolutely.
This is just the first step.
The first step in a long journey.
In your journey towards becoming a blockchain developer.
Right.
Or a Solidity developer.
Right.
There's a lot more to learn.
Oh, yeah.
But these fundamentals
these are the fundamentals.
Will serve as a solid foundation.
That's right.
For everything that comes next.
They are, yeah.
So if we think back to our building a house analogy, we've laid the concrete foundation.
And we've poured the concrete.
Now we need to start
framing those walls.
Framing the walls and adding those other structural elements that will support the rest of the house.
That's right.
And in terms of blockchain development?
You're right. What would those be? The walls.
Walls. And
what are those walls?
Structural elements might include things like data structures, algorithms, cryptography, distributed systems, all these topics that we will be exploring.
We'll definitely get to those.
Future episodes of this series.
Looking forward to it.
So what are some of the key takeaways from this lecture that you think our listeners should really focus on as they start their journey into blockchain development?
I mean, I think the biggest takeaway is understanding that these seemingly simple concepts like variables, data types, loops, conditionals, they really form the foundation for everything we do in programming.
Yeah, it's like
learning the alphabet, blockchain development.
Before you can write a novel.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't build a complex, decentralized application without first understanding the basic building blocks.
You got to start with the basics, for sure. And beyond that, beyond the...
the technical concepts. I think the lecture also highlights the importance of problem solving, breaking down complex tasks, paying attention to detail.
Yeah.
All of those are crucial skills.
They're so important.
For any developer, but especially
in the blockchain world.
In the blockchain world.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, and let's not forget about error handling.
Yeah, error handling. That was
the lecture really hammered that home.
Big takeaway.
Yeah, hammered that home. How, seemingly minor mistakes can have huger consequences.
Right. So the need for robust
error handling. In blockchain applications.
Absolutely.
Where security and reliability
are so important.
It's so important.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
It is.
So it sounds like
we covered a lot of ground in
this
first episode.
Yeah.
We've explored foundational programming concepts and how they relate to blockchain development. We've highlighted the importance of key skills like problem solving, error handling.
I think it's a good foundation.
A good place to start.
Yeah. For anyone who wants to
get into this.
To keep that momentum going.
Yeah.
I think it would be great for our listeners to actually take on the challenge from the lecture.
Okay.
And try building that right-aligned Mario pyramid.
The right-aligned Mario pyramid.
Yeah. That
sounds fun.
It's a fun and engaging way.
It's a good way.
To solidify
your understanding of loops and conditional statements.
It is for sure.
So before we wrap up this episode, though, I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question.
All right, hit me.
Inspired by the boxes analogy.
Okay, the boxes.
For variables.
Yeah.
So if variables are like these containers for data in traditional programming, what kind of containers are used to represent data in a blockchain?
That's a great question. Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny you should mention that.
Yeah.
Because that leads us right into the concept of data structure.
Data structures, right.
Which are fundamental to how blockchains work.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
A blockchain needs to store vast amounts of data.
It's a lot of data.
Securely and efficiently.
Right.
It can't just throw all that information into one big box.
One giant box.
Right. It needs like special containers.
Special containers,
to organize it,
and manage it.
Exactly.
So those containers are what we call data structures.
Okay.
And one common data structure used in blockchains is a linked list.
It's a linked list, okay.
Yeah, imagine a chain of blocks where each block contains data and a link to the previous block. Oh. It's essentially...
So it's like a
linked list.
A chain.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how that chain analogy connects to the structure of a blockchain.
Exactly.
Like each block is linked to the one before it.
To the one before it.
Creating this chronological and tamper-proof record of transactions.
Exactly. That's really cool.
And there are other data structures too.
Okay.
Like Merkle trees.
Merkle trees.
That play a big role in blockchain technology.
Okay.
And we'll definitely dive into those in more detail in future episodes.
Yeah.
But for now, I think the important thing is to understand that data structures are essential.
Essential for building the secure and efficient systems that power blockchains.
That's right.
So it's like we're taking those basic building blocks we learned about, variables, loops, conditionals, and using them to create these
more complex and specialized data structures that are used in blockchain technology.
Right. So it's all about building upon those fundamental concepts.
Absolutely.
To create something
really
innovative
and transformative. Yeah.
All right. So I think that brings us to the end of
part one.
Part one of our
deep dive.
Yeah. So we explored foundational programming concepts.
We covered a lot of ground.
We talked about how we relate to blockchain development.
For sure.
We highlighted the importance of some key skills
like problem solving
and error handling.
Yeah. Big ones.
Yeah.
Big ones.
I think it's a great place to start for anyone who wants to build in the exciting world.
The exciting world of blockchain.
Yeah. And make sure to tune in next time for part 2 of our Must-Know Topics series.
Can't wait.
Where we'll be talking about even more advanced concepts. Directly relevant to blockchain development.
Awesome.
So
cool.
Until then, happy coding.
Happy coding, everyone. Yeah, more complex and specialized data structures that are used in blockchain technology.
Right.
It is, it's all about building upon
those fundamental concepts.
Absolutely, to create something
really innovative and transformative.
Innovative and transformative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think this has been a fantastic...
It has been a good one.
...deep dive into the fundamentals of programming.
For sure.
And how they relate to blockchain development.
Yeah.
We've explored everything from variables and data types to loops and conditionals.
Yeah.
We even touched upon the fascinating world of data structures.
A little bit, yeah. So I think we really highlighted how these seemingly basic concepts are absolutely essential for anyone who wants to get into...
To build in this space.
Yeah, the exciting world of blockchain.
That's right.
Cool.
Whether you're aspiring to become a blockchain developer or a Solidity developer, mastering these fundamentals will set you up for success.
Absolutely. It's a good foundation.
Yeah. And don't forget to tune in next time.
Yes.
For part 2
of
our Must-Know Topics series.
Can't wait.
Where we'll be talking about even more advanced concepts.
That's right.
Directly relevant to blockchain development.
Looking forward to it.
So until then,
happy
coding.
Happy coding, everybody.